Hey guys, I wanted to show you a couple of different ways that you can compost in your garden. There's more, but these are the two that I use in my garden. So I found these composters and I have really liked them. I started with this one, but it was a little bit too small, I think, to get the heat it needed. So I'll link these up, but they have worked wonderfully. So I've got two that are in different states right now. This one is almost done. So it was completely full and it has just gone down to almost nothing, as you can tell now. So this is just really, really great compost. And maybe this, if you're squeamish, you might not like this, but I mean, I use paper and kitchen scraps. So this is all this is, you guys. So I break up these clods. When you see these, you just break them up. And actually, I don't even know if you can see any of the paper in there now. It's just mud. It's just dirt. And then if we move over to this composter, so I stopped adding to this when it was full, and now I'm adding to this one. So you can see I just shred cardboard and paper, and you can see all the little pieces of it in there. And then I just, when I'm pruning plants in my garden and things, it all just goes in here, and all my kitchen scraps and things like that. So that is the composting that I'm doing. And here in Phoenix, we actually have to wet this down. Like, you want to keep it, they say that you want to be able to, if you were to pick it up and squeeze it, it would be like a wrung out sponge. That's like how wet you want it to be. So I have to hose this down every few days to keep it that way. So that's what we do with that. The next thing I do, and this has been one of the reasons my garden has done so well, is that it's constantly getting fertilized by worms. And I added worms to my garden using, and this is called vermicomposting. So I have these baskets that I just buried soil level deep. These are like $5 baskets from like your office supply store. So they've got the holes in the sides so the worms can go in and out as they want. The kind of worms you want to get are called red wrigglers. And they will eat up kitchen scraps and then crawl throughout your garden and come back to get their food in here in the basket that I'm adding all the time. So I have all these kitchen scraps here that I'm about to add. And all I do is I keep a layer of shredded cardboard on top. So I'm going to move that. And I have had some ants. So I used to just dig down in here with my hands, but I don't really want to get bit. I'll show you though. You'll see all these worms in here just doing their thing. So they're just doing their thing, and their poop, which they call castings, worm castings, just gets transported all over this garden. So I'm just going to take a scoop of just the kitchen scraps, and I do this like every week or two, and I just put a layer on top there, and then I keep a layer of shredded cardboard on top of that, and then I also put this on top. You don't have to do this, but I just protect it from like birds and different things. And it's just adds shade too. So it's just a good thing to have. But I have two of these in each of these beds, these bigger beds, two here, just spaced throughout. I have one on this smaller bed that has all my asparagus in it. And then I've got two in this L-shaped bed. So you can kind of see those. So really, really great way to fertilize your garden constantly without too much work. So just a quick tour of what's going on in the garden. It is getting towards the end of August. We've still got some high temps, but we had like a week of a little bit lower with monsoons coming through and things. And it's amazing what that does for the garden. So I've seen some things blooming, but I've showed you guys these before, but these are my sesame seed pods they're green right now, but as they come around this side, as they turn brown, they pop open, and that's when you pick them off and stick them in a paper sack to dry, and then you get all these sesame seeds, which is really, really fun. So that's been fun to learn about. These garlic chives, if you haven't planted garlic chives, they love the sun. They do great here in Arizona in the Phoenix hot sun. And then we have had lots of eggplant. So I have been picking them like crazy and have discovered I really like eggplant. It's a great thing. And all I do is I put it in the air fryer for 10 minutes and with some seasoning and a little olive oil. And these peppers have been great. They were new to me. They're called giant Marconi sweet peppers, and they are really yummy, and they are still producing great even in this hot sun. So really great. This is why I got rid of the shade cloth over this bed, or at least I left it on the strawberries down there. But this is called Roselle hibiscus, and you can see it's massive, and it's really fun because I have not planted it before, but apparently when they bloom, the little blooms, once the blooms fall off, they leave the little calyx on the end of the branch, and those little calyxes can be used to make a really yummy tea out of the hibiscus. So I am anxious to try that. I think it'll be really fun. And apparently you could do jam and pies with it too, but we will see. Other things that we have going on, look at this sweet potato vine. It's massive. This came from one little stem from my daughter-in-law. She gave me like 7 or 8 little stems that were like 3 or 4 inch long stems with one leaf at the top. I planted them in my garden and they have just gone crazy. So that's one. This one gets more shade, so it's not as big as the other, but it's still great. And then on the other end of this bed over here, it's also going nuts. So we should have some great sweet potatoes in the fall. So November maybe, I don't know. This is, again, all new to me. Other things that are doing great in here, these green onions, they were not doing well when it was super hot, and now they are. And I've used them a bunch. I clip them back and they grow back. So they're great. The strawberries are starting to produce more again in this cool down a little bit. Cool down being like 105. The flowers, they're also loving. These zinnias do great even in the hot sun. So I think that is, oh, let me show you one more thing. Okay, just have to stand back and appreciate this arch. It turned out so awesome. We love it. So I have these all over the garden and they have just been great for growing things vertically and providing some shade. But I've got my cucumbers going over here and I'm picking like anywhere from 1 to 3 of them a day. And I mean, look how massive they get, you guys. These are just so cool. Again, these are painted serpent cucumbers. If you're interested in growing some, they grow really well in the heat. They produce all summer long. Super great. But you guys, like 3/4 of my garden has been pulled out. Everywhere there's an empty square used to have something in it. And I'm just getting ready for the fall garden. So I have stuff growing in my laundry room that I'll be transplanting out here as soon as it cools down a little bit more. But everywhere that's empty will be filled in again. But even with all of that gone, this garden just still has a ton going on, which is super, super, super fun.